David Hoover here. I hope you guys had a good 4th of July. And I know you're wondering, wow, you put together a video, what's this all about? Simple. I can't get to everyone in the studio like I would like to. I don't get the FaceTime because I have jobs to do, my boss requires me to be there, and our badge records everywhere that we go. Now, I've been running this campaign against Dennis with one arm tied behind my back because he's our steward, and he's a non-working steward, so he gets to go to people, for whatever the reasons, and visit with everyone. So I'm trying to communicate to you with things other than a sheet of paper. And on a sheet of paper, I can't put that much information down. I can't be totally clear about what I mean and what I say because I just don't have the time to do it. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to communicate to you in this video, and I'll give you a quick outline about what I want to cover. First of all is what I believe. What I believe is your steward. Okay, and in that's going to come some clarification about some things that I said and some of my viewpoints. And you're also going to understand what I think the issues are and why. Okay, and then I'm going to have a plan to deal with it because a lot of these issues are real. They're just not getting talked about. It's all just, hey, how you doing? Did you have a great weekend? Nice, here's this, here's that. I mean, that's what I get from my opponent, but the real issues, not getting talked about. So I'm bringing them to the forefront for you. Okay, and so once I do that and I bring the issues up, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about what my plan is. It will help everyone. It'll help reduce work. It'll help retain headcount. It'll help alleviate some of the stress on the smaller departments, keep more work in-house, save the company money, and prevent rework, which that's all great. That's going to be more towards the end. But my very last point will be my willingness to concede the selection. Okay, I'm willing to concede the selection and let Dennis move forward as the steward, as long as these issues get addressed. And that's just not me and Dennis agreeing, that's us as a group. Okay, we fall under this umbrella as modelers, fabricators, etc., and we have the other smaller groups. We need to look out for everyone. So if everyone's interest is in agreement and we can move forward with a plan to help out with a lot of these issues, I'd be willing to step aside. But there are requirements, and I'll go into that at the end. You'll just have to watch the rest of it, and then I'll get there, okay? So that's one of the things that I want to talk about there is my willingness to concede, but now let's just talk about what I believe. All right, I believe, as the union motto is, it's all for one and one for all. That's the idea. We're in the same classification, so, we should be helping each other out, okay? We shouldn't be telling, you guys just do this, I only do this, I don't do any of that, they do this and that. No. We're all modelers. Okay, we can all help out. We can help each other because we have, some groups that are short on headcount. And there are times when some people aren't doing anything. Other people are busy. And we should share. I mean, there's no reason why one group among us should have, all the overtime while everybody else starves with no gravy and no overtime. Okay, we've got guys on 12 hours a day. And they're doing 12-hour days. And we can help alleviate that problem, and my plan will cover that. And, we should respect each other because there are smaller groups, like the movers and the shows guys. They don't get, I think, any of the gravy hardly, and a lot of the respect that they need to, and some of the training should be offered to them so that they can come under our umbrella and pull themselves up. Okay, rather than taking people off the street and training them, we should be looking out for those guys and trying to help them move up since they've been here for a while, okay? So that's basically what I believe about that part of it. And then, of course, there's my core values as a steward. I would be here from 7:15 until 4 o'clock at our core times. Okay, Dennis keeps from 6 until 2 with a paid lunch like Mill Didge. Now, I took a crack at him about it, and Mill Didge does overtime. They're doing 10 hours a day. I was a mill operator for 7 years. I did 10 hours a day. And the rule is that you worked through lunch and you got paid for it. Well, that's because we have lives. We have, pets and kids and houses and, things that need to be taken care of. And if people are going to do day in and day out 10 hours a day and management wants to afford them that privilege, well, that's awesome because it's hard to get people to stay otherwise. People would quit doing overtime if they can't take care of their business. But, if you're going to do an 8-hour day, it should be a normal 8-hour day in here during our core hours. because a lot of the work that does go out anyways goes out after 4 o'clock. So that's something I've noticed, and need to be here when most of the stuff that's really going on is going on. Okay. Now, that also brings me to the working steward part of it. We have training that we have to do if we're going to be stewards and things like that. We have meetings we'd have to go to if we're going to be a steward. You guys understand that. But I wouldn't totally quit working. Okay? And if I'm going to be here for the overtime and I'm soaking up the overtime that some other guy could get, then yes, I'm going to be working right along with you guys. Not only that, I would also like to learn the other aspects of the business. Okay? I've been a mill operator. I wouldn't mind doing milling. I even have a plan to incorporate studio milling to help out with relieving some of the heavy-duty hours that are done in mill dig, and to give guys some opportunities within our studios and to keep our head count up. But that's another part of my discussion, so I'll get there. And then also I'd represent you. If I were your union steward, I'd represent your viewpoint. I would not be pushing the union's viewpoint saying, well, you should believe this because they say this all the time, and this is the only viewpoint. A great issue on this is the recent vote to increase our union dues to rebuild the strike fund. The strike fund was depleted because they kept dipping into it for little pet projects. Well, this latest motion changes the strike fund to the strike and general defense fund, which makes it easier for them to dip in and take funds out for other projects. I couldn't go for that. I wouldn't have voted for that as your representative. Actually, it's not the steward's job to vote for that, but I'm just saying I wouldn't have been for a viewpoint like that at all, because it just isn't going to be good in the long term. Now, I'm going to segue from that into the whole issues. Okay, what are the issues? All right, the issues are that basically we have these classifications that encompass a lot of different things about the job, and that some of us in the studios are being asked to do more and more because we're less busy, because a lot of the work has shifted down to mill dig. And mill dig is working some guys 12 hours a day, right? So we don't have the overtime, and we're being asked more and more to support other things, and we're supporting the fab shop, which is a skeleton crew of guys. The fab shop is critical. They support milling and digitizing, and they support the studios and what they make, and there's only a couple of them. A lot of work gets shipped out to do some of the armatures and some of the show models. Tons of work gets shipped out for that. The stuff to get painted and sanded. So we need to help each other out there, and that's under job description. And one of the big issues, this is a festering issue in the studios, and I'm bringing it up. This is a hard issue, and I know a lot of guys aren't happy about hearing me bring this up, but I've brought this up to Dennis. This never gets addressed. There are guys who come up into the studios and they run a mill, and then when there's clay that needs to be packed, they will say, all right, I'm going to take a break and you guys pack the clay. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, I'll be working on something else, I'll get pulled off of that job to go pack that model, or I'll get sent downstairs to go pack that model, and it's okay to help out. If you're helping out, that's cool. That's great. But it's not okay to be like, okay, I'm going to go take a break while you do that. That's not fair. Another example, this is another one. It was like a few of us guys, we packed a model, we brought it downstairs. And the problem is that the hooks that lift the model, we didn't leave the holes in the windshield and the backlight. Well, actually, they weren't even there to begin with. It wasn't that we didn't leave them there. We just packed over that. Well, a person on second shift actually called our boss and complained to him that we didn't put the holes back in the model. Now, all it would have taken to fix this would take a dowel and pop the clay plug out from underneath the model and pop it out and put the hook down in there. Give me a break. You've got the clay modeling title, right? You can handle that. We were out the door, we had done our time, and sometimes things pick up. Or how about there's a couple other times when we get read the riot act because we didn't have the model at the right height or something. It's like, well, if we all have the same title and the same job description, then all this grunt work just doesn't fall on a certain group. Okay? Now, job description, that's a good one there. We should all be helping out the fab shop. okay, in doing stuff because they help us out and they're kind of short-handed. And in most, we help out the movers sometimes because we move things because they've got big things to do, and that's expected of us. I mean, we're all supposed to be brothers in this, right? And, training. Let's talk about training a little bit, this issue, because I just mentioned the movers. We're bringing in guys from the outside and training them. When we have guys with seniority who've been on the inside for a while, whom are doing things like packing clay on overtime, if they get it, at a much lower pay rate, etc. And those guys need to be offered the opportunity to train. They can train in the fab shop, they can train to be mill operators, they can train, for modeling the old way, like when you had journeyman's cards and apprentices and things like that. I mean, we can certainly help guys out and help alleviate some of the workload and keep some of the work in-house. That'd be awesome. I mean, why are we sending all this work out, to Prefix and Prestige, for them to sand and do all this stuff when we could have some of our guys get some overtime, like, the movers, for instance, help out with some of this stuff. I mean, it wouldn't take much training, to help them out and get them there. So that's important. The training is really key, and that's also going to, segue into the next portion I want to talk about, which is the in-studio milling. Okay? Now, that part of the training is also part of my plan to save headcount. Obviously, the modelers are dropping as mill digitizing is increasing. As it's already obvious, the overtime that's in milling and digitizing and the overtime that's in modeling. Well, we're going to have a lot of guys retiring out in the modeling department. So what I want to do to keep the headcount up is to bring in-studio milling, dedicated in-studio milling. That can do a lot of things. That can save the company money, okay, which is how you have to pitch it to the company, and it can improve the quality of the models, which is great. In other words, we could take a mill, and if we have a model that we have to balance and do it quickly, we can pull the points, scribe the lines on the other side of the model, and go ahead and carve it in really fast and be pretty exact about it. That's a great way to save time. Packing, oh my gosh. Using a mill to save packing is awesome. We could do our customary ribs that we do on the model. Take a mill, mill the ribs in every so far down and fill in between. It'd save hundreds of pounds of clay. It'd save achy elbows and wrists. And that's a great incentive to the company. It'd cut down on the amount of time to pack. Because there's nothing worse than overpacking and seeing all that clay hit the floor and then huge sections missing on the rocker. And I'm sure it doesn't make the mill digi guys happy either when they see that sort of thing. It's very frustrating for them. So this is a good idea. If we could get, I mean, we have guys in the studio already that know how to run mills that were from Ford or have GM experience running mills or even contract houses. So we could do that. I mean, our guys would have an opportunity to run some mills to get some overtime because that no doubt would happen. Most vehicles are already changed before they're done milling or before they're up in the studio, like maybe the taillight, headlight gets changed, right? So we could quickly re-mill that. We could do more verification work in the studio of the surfaces that are being released. This is a big deal, especially the verification part where we could take the last bit of digital data, mill it one more time so that they could look at it to make sure it's really right and really good before we go, oh no, Cherokee, right? I mean, we could do that. We could do that. It would increase our work as far as getting overtime. It would keep the need for the head count and improve the quality, make our lives easier. Okay, so that's a big part of it. And the hiring and training is a big part of my plan. And I'm mentioning it again, but like I said, we could train the guys in this, from the other departments to help out, decrease the workload, be able to shift people around a little bit more, things like that. It's just like I said, we have this big umbrella that we're under, and people need to share in every aspect of the job, and that would make it easier on all of us. All of us would have to work less hard if everybody just contributed like they should. So, we'd have better models at the end of the day. I think management would be happier. We'd be doing less, I think, rework because there's a lot of tear down and sending the models down and then they come back up. Or there's guys from mill ditch dragging mills up for a little while, dragging them back down, up and down. We would save a lot on that. So, oh man. Okay, the last part that I want to cover is my willingness to concede the selection and let Dennis continue on to be the steward. And I'm going to tell you what it's going to take. Basically, we'd have to agree to this plan of working together, this plan of helping each other out, this plan of sharing in the overtime, this plan of protecting the modeling name that keeps our pay scale where it is. Okay? That's what it would take. And that wouldn't take just me and Dennis, that would take all the different department heads, like maybe the 18Es is an example. We'd have to come together and we'd agree moving forward that we're going to work together, that we're going to go in a positive direction, and we're going to do these things, and we're going to stick together on this. And that we're not going to become just separate entities that are all for ourselves. Okay? We have to stick together. And it's important because, when this next session comes through, we strike or the company wants to, get us to give ground on things, we need to all be on common ground together on this, not separate. So if we can do that, and I could help accomplish that, I will have succeeded in what I wanted to do by running in the first place. And I'd let Dennis continue on. But also, Dennis would have to take me on as his assistant steward. So I could do the things I want to talk about, like keep the core hours, keep perspective from the floor by continuing to work, and, by watching and learning. Now, I ran a real positive campaign the first time around, and quite honestly, since then, Dennis did a lot of things to upset me. Concerning the hot dog party, the campaigning. But one of the things that bothered me the most, that I hadn't mentioned till now, but it shouldn't be forgotten, was that the day after the election, Dennis went after a lot of my supporters, calling them traitors and trying to root them out. And that was really a bunch of crap. Okay? I might have been willing right then and there just to concede and let Dennis, go on back then. But he didn't offer me the position as assistant steward either, which he kind of should have done. And, I really think some of these things should be looked after. And while he has the experience as a steward, I have the experience of being a mill operator and a data processor, and that part of it too. I've worked a lot of different jobs. I've worked as a machinist before, a long, long time ago. And so when it comes to integrating milling into the studios, I could help with that, and I'd love to help with that. I'd love to learn the different parts of the job. And, we have to agree, even with those smaller departments, it's not all about modeling, and it's not all about milling and digitizing, although we're the bigger groups. The fab shop definitely needs people. They need support. They support us. Okay? The paint shop. We have a lot of work going out. It's paint work. And we need to agree, the bigger studios or areas, that we are willing to give them some head count rather than just, hogging everything for ourselves. And if we can be positive and we can move forward in that direction, then yeah, I'd be willing to concede the selection. If Dennis doesn't see it that way, I'm willing to debate it. Okay? I'm willing to debate the issues. I'm willing to bring things up. Things ought to be brought up, if not. And, because I'm doing this so that I can make positive changes. If it continues to go the status quo, then these things are going to fester, and they're just going to get worse. Now is the time. Now is the time to make those changes in direction and to be clear about, that we understand where we're going together, not individually. So, with that said, I'm done with this video. I hope I offered you something good. I hope that you learn a little bit more about my viewpoint and what I see with things, and I hope that you understand it. Be against it or for it. I hope that you have a better understanding, and I hope that this will lead to something better. I think it will. All right. Thank you, and once again, hope you had a great 4th of July holiday. Goodbye.